In the fall of 2021, young couple from northern Idaho, Mason and Ellie Carter, set out on a weekend hunting trip in the remote Selkirk Mountains. It was a trip they'd done before. Mason had grown up in those woods, and Ellie, a wildlife photographer, loved capturing the untouched beauty of the terrain. They were well prepared, experienced, and left with their dog, Murphy, a loyal golden retriever who never left their side. But when they didn't return by Monday morning, their families knew something was wrong. Search and rescue teams scoured the area for weeks. Helicopters flew over steep ravines, sent dogs, combed trails, and volunteers checked old cabins and logging roads. But no signs of a struggle. No gear, no tracks, not even a campfire. It was like they had vanished into thin air. As the months passed, the story faded from the news, leaving behind only questions and heartbreak. Then, exactly 2 years later, something unexplainable happened. Murphy, their dog, showed up on Ellie's parents' porch. Thin, dirty, and shaking but alive. He was still wearing the collar he had on when they left. And tied to that collar was something no one could have predicted: a small cloth pouch containing what looked like part of a hand-drawn map. How did Murphy survive? Where had he been all this time? And more importantly, who left that map on his collar? Because one thing was certain: he didn't find his way home on his own. Want to follow the trail Murphy may have taken or uncover what the map might reveal? Mason and Ellie Carter weren't just another couple who loved the outdoors, they lived for it. Mason worked as a hunting guide in the summers, and Ellie, when she wasn't taking wildlife photos for a local magazine, volunteered with trail conservation groups. They were known in their community for being prepared and cautious, never the type to take risks in the backcountry. That's why their sudden disappearance during what was supposed to be a 2-night hunting trip never made sense to those who knew them best. When Murphy reappeared in 2023, everything changed. The dog had clearly been through a lot of thunderweight, covered in burrs and limping slightly. But he recognized Ellie's mom instantly, wagging his tail and whining as if trying to speak. The vet confirmed he had no major injuries, and somehow, his chip still matched their records. But the biggest surprise was the pouch tied to his collar. It looked like canvas, hand-stitched, with 2 small pieces of paper inside. One was torn and faded, a sketch of what looked like a ridgeline with a small X marked near a stream. The other was a short message written in pencil. Asterisk, still alive. Help. Asterisk search teams were assembled again, this time using the map as a possible lead, but the area it pointed to was dense, off the main trails, and dangerous. The question everyone kept asking: if one of them had survived, why hadn't they returned? Or was someone keeping them from coming back? I want to trace the map's location or investigate who wrote the message. As word spread about Murphy's return and the message attached to his collar, theories began to swirl. Some believed Mason or Ellie had somehow survived and sent the dog back for help. Others thought it was a cruel hoax, someone trying to reopen old wounds. But those who knew the couple believed differently. Ellie was clever and resourceful, and Mason knew those mountains better than most. If anyone could survive that long in the wilderness, it would be them. Ellie's brother, Ryan, joined the new search team, determined to follow the sketch. He recognized the ridgeline from a family camping trip they'd taken years before. Remote area past Cougar Rock, far from marked trails and nearly impossible to reach on foot without experience. Ryan and a small team of trackers set out at first light, using satellite maps and terrain scans to narrow the location. Meanwhile, a new angle began to emerge. A retired ranger came forward, claiming he'd seen a man and woman fitting Mason and Ellie's description not long after they vanished. They were near a closed-off section of forest that bordered private land. But when he approached, they turned and disappeared into the trees. He reported it, but no one followed up. That section of land. It had been bought a few years earlier by a reclusive group with no clear public records and signs warning outsiders to stay away. Was the couple trapped there, or had they uncovered something they were never meant to see? Ryan and the team pushed deeper into the backcountry, guided by the torn map and fading daylight. The terrain grew steeper, and the trail, if there ever was one, had long disappeared under years of fallen trees and overgrowth. Still, something kept them going, the idea that either Mason or Ellie might be alive, waiting just beyond the next ridge. As they neared the stream marked on the map, they found signs of movement, broken branches, a makeshift snare, and what looked like a faint footprint. Too small to be Mason, single quotes. Meanwhile, back in town, Ellie's friend Harper had been reviewing old trail cam footage from the year they vanished. She'd worked for the conservation team back then and had access to archived files. In one video, recorded about 3 months after their disappearance, a figure passed by the camera briefly. The image was blurred, but the person had a limp just like Murphy. And behind them, a second shape, barely visible, holding what looked like a walking stick. Harper paused the footage and zoomed in. Around the person's neck was something shiny, a pendant Ellie always wore. The search team, unaware of this new footage, continued through the thick woods until they reached the edge of a narrow clearing. There, hidden in a thicket of trees, was an old hunting blind reinforced with logs and partially smoke rose faintly from behind it. Barely visible in the cold air, someone was still out there, watching, waiting, and they knew help had finally come. Ryan motioned for the team to stop as they crouched near the edge of the clearing. The faint smoke twisting above the blind meant someone had been there recently, maybe even minutes ago. But the structure was silent. No movement, no voices, just the faint crackle of a dying fire. Carefully, they approached, calling out softly, hoping for an answer. None came. Inside, they found old supplies, canned food, hand-sewn blankets, a fire still warm but no sign of a person. Then Ryan spotted something chilling. A carved message on the wall made with the tip of a knife. It read, "Too late. They know." The tension spiked as the radio crackled to life. Back at base camp, Harper had traced the pendant seen in the trail cam footage to a custom necklace Ellie's father had made, one of a kind. She matched it with a photo taken days before the couple vanished. The match was undeniable. Ellie had been alive at least 3 months after disappearing, but there was something even more alarming. Near the pendant in the video, Harper spotted a figure in the far background, tall, wearing dark gear, watching from the shadows. Zooming in, revealed an odd patch on the jacket, a symbol tied to a controversial private land group known to operate in the Selkirk region. A group with a history of denying access to outsiders and off-the-grid activity. This wasn't just a missing persons case anymore. Now, it looked like Mason and Ellie had stumbled onto something much bigger and much more dangerous. Ryan followed the trail past the blind, guided by subtle signs, broken twig, fresh boot prints, and the faintest rustle deeper in the woods. As the team spread out in silence, they spotted movement near a moss-covered rock face. When Ryan called out Ellie's name, a figure slowly stepped out from behind a cluster of trees. She was thinner, her clothes weathered, but it was Hurley. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, as if unsure the rescue was real. Behind her, another figure emerged, leaning on a hand-carved crutch. Mason. They had survived, Ellie explained quickly. They'd stumbled onto an off-grid compound 2 years ago while tracking elk. The group living there, armed and secretive, had warned them never to return. When they tried to leave, the couple was hunted, forced to hide in remote terrain for survival. Mason had been injured during the escape, which slowed them down. They'd relied on foraging, traps, and small fires. Murphy, their dog, had been sent out with the map when food ran too low to risk, both staying alive. But just when it seemed they were finally safe, Ellie held up something Ryan hadn't expected, a folded piece of paper marked with the same symbol Harper had seen in the video. It hadn't come from the group they'd run from. It was newer, cleaner. Someone else had been tracking them too. The rescue was real. But someone else, watching from a distance, clearly wasn't done with this story. And they knew Murphy had led them here. The team moved fast after reuniting with Mason and Ellie, hiking them out of the wilderness under the cover of night. Despite exhaustion and injury, they made it safely back to base camp by dawn. Medical staff treated Mason's leg, and both were given time to rest and reunite with their families. Murphy never left their side, as if he'd known this moment would come all along. Ellie gave her full account to authorities, confirming they'd been pursued by a private group guarding illegal structures deep within protected land. A symbol found on the new paper didn't match that group's known markings, raising more questions than answers. Officials began a quiet investigation, though the land was hard to access, and the people operating out there had already vanished. They were ever fully known to begin with.